Bass fishing, and especially tournament bass fishing, is unbelievably mental. And I've talked before about the mental side of bass fishing and how much I love it, but there's something else that I was going to talk specifically about, and that's about what happens when you have a string of bad tournaments, or you go out and you have a string of, unsuccessful bass fishing trips. What happens? People want to talk about, oh, you're in a slump, oh, this, that, the other. I think when you look at like baseball players, and when you look at other sports other than bass fishing, you can see more of a slump situation. I feel like in other sports, slumps tend to be tied to something else that's going on. Maybe they've got an eye issue. Maybe they're dealing with a wrist injury and they just don't want to talk about it. They want to try to play through it. Maybe they're dealing with stuff at home, so their mind is somewhere else, and they're not quite focused and preparing and doing everything like they should be doing. I think for other sports, that's definitely seems to be the case. Bass fishing, from my experience, doesn't always tie in with something else that's going on. Sometimes you just randomly have a bad tournament. Sometimes you can have a kind of a crazy string of 2 or 3 tournaments they're not as successful. But in bass fishing, I feel like you always come back to who you are. Taking, for example, Justin Lucas went out a few years back and had just the awfulest season on the Elite Series you could ever imagine. Just a terrible season. The poor guy, I felt bad for him. I mean, he couldn't do anything right. And he had already proven in the previous couple years he was an amazing angler. Well, he went out and just stunk it up, start to finish that season. He had a good opens season that year, but out there on the Bassmaster Elite Series, terrible. I talked to him at the end of the season and I said, dude, look, you're gonna come back to who you are, statistically. Statistically, your year last year, that ain't who you are. That ain't who you are. I think it got in his head a little bit about how bad he was doing, and he started trying too hard to do things that were not him. And I was adamant. I told him, you just need to do what you do. You need to be who you are. You need to be Justin Lucas. You don't need to try to be anybody else. You don't need to go out and try to be Kevin Van Dam, or you try to be Mike Iaconelli, or try to be somebody else because they're actually having good seasons. You need to get back to being who Justin Lucas really is. He went out the next year and won Angler of the Year. Like, unquestionably won it. He did awesome start to finish, won an event. I mean, he fished like Justin Lucas can fish, and he's been fishing like that basically ever since. He's had a couple little bad tournaments here and there, but overall he's been who Justin Lucas is. So for me, just recently, I've had 4 bad tournaments in a row. 1 was kind of bad, 2 were absolutely dismal, and then the last one was pretty bad. It was in the 60s, so not good at all. I caught plenty of fish. I just could not catch a break and catch any good ones, but sometimes that stuff happens. And I feel like I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, what's going on? What's happening? Is it your electronics, or is it your boat, or is something going on? Do you have too much stuff going on at home? It doesn't necessarily mean any of that. Doesn't necessarily mean any of that. A lot of what happens is that you need a break, or a clue, or a key fish somewhere in practice, and then sometimes it doesn't happen until during the tournament, that really, really keys you in on what you need to be doing that day or that week. And what I mean by that is, you can go out there and let's say you're at Lake Champlain, you're catching smallmouth, and you figure out, well, they're on these isolated boulders, and you go out there and you go out there and you catch them, you catch some fish, and you have a 17, 18 pound day, good day. But then if you can zero it in to where, as you look at those boulders, you find the ones that are just a little more isolated, and those are holding a little bit bigger fish. I'm talking like 3.5s versus 3s, or 4s versus 3s. So, I mean, we're not talking like 7-pounders versus 2-pounders. I'm talking just a little teeny difference. Then you can start looking for other single boulders that are just a little further away from where the rest of them are. Those little more isolated ones, the outer fringe ones, tend to be holding the bigger fish. That's the little teeny key that you needed, because you caught that 4.25 in practice off this one boulder. Then you swung around and scanned it and looked at it, and you saw that, wow, that boulder's a little further away from the other ones. Maybe I need to look for more of that. That's what I'm talking about by having that one key bite that clues you in to the rest of it. I've had some key bites I felt like in practice, and then come tournament time, that was not the key bite. I really thought that was going to be the key bite, and then in the tournament I go and they're 2.5-pounders. They're not 3.5 and 4 and 5s. They're, you know, I'll catch a 4 something in practice, and I'll go back both days of the tournament and I catch multiple 2.5s. So sometimes that's just, you know, bad luck, bad timing, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like that in the tournament, you know, over the years, I have seen it. I've seen it in practice. You get that one key bite, or you make that one little teeny change that gets you the key bite to where you're able to run with it during the tournament and go out there and have, you know, a top 20, top 10. You have really good tournaments. I had that earlier this year at the St. Johns River. We had a tournament there. I got 2 bites in one area, and one of them was a 4-pounder, and the other one I shook off. It felt good, felt like a good fish, and I got those bites pretty quick, and I got out of that area, and I kept that area in my back pocket, because I knew that if the wind got up or the tide got funny, that area was still going to be good. And sure enough, we had a crazy wind event. It sucked out a lot of the water, and I knew I can go to that one area, and maybe some of these couple other areas that I got bit could be good too, but I know I can go to that one area and get some bites. And sure enough, I ended up having a 2nd place finish, and I caught, you know, well over half, probably like 3/4 of my fish in that one area where I had those 2 key bites, and I recognized what was going on in there, and I realized that was going to be good. One of the other competitors had a top 5 finish in that same area, so there was definitely some good fish in that area, and those couple key bites are what I got and recognized and were able to use during the tournament. The last 4 tournaments, I feel like I have not gotten that key bite to where I could recognize what was going on and that was going to happen. So I feel like as long as you prepare properly, and for me with an Elite Series event, I feel like I need at least 8 hours to prepare my boat and my tackle for the next event or series of events. And the more events, you know, like we're getting ready to have 3 tournaments in a row, 3 Elite Series events in a row. That's going to be probably more in the 12-hour range of boat tackle preparation time before I even pull out of my house here and head towards that first tournament. That's before that even happens. So preparation, you have to find and make the time to prepare as much as you need to. You do that, and no matter how much else is going on in your life, like, you know, get missile baits, got family things going on, got, you know, sponsor obligations, all kind of other things going on. But as long as you make time to dedicate to preparation, all the other things are not a distraction. They're not a big deal. You make your time to do the proper preparation. That's 1. 2 is when you go, you do all the preparation that, you know, on your tackle and boat, but you also do all the preparation on all the other obligations that you have when you go to an event. That's what I try to do. I try to put everything else in place to where my family, my wife can handle things, my employees, that, you know, they handle everything that they're supposed to handle. when I'm away. So when I'm gone, I can be pretty much exclusively dedicated to the tournament that I'm going to be at. And I would say, even if you're a recreational angler and you like fishing in a kayak, I mean, the last 4 kayak trips, you haven't caught anything, and it's really kind of bugging you. It's a lot of the same principles, in my opinion, that I go through with what I'm doing in tournaments as somebody going out just to have fun fishing in a kayak. They go out 4 trips in a row and they don't catch anything. Well, are you doing your research on where you're going? Are you doing your research on what baits you're throwing? Are you getting stuck with throwing the same thing that you got bit on 2 months ago, and you just haven't changed, and you're not trying the other techniques properly in order to get bit and catch fish, catch those bass that we all love? It's the same principle. You might be thinking, you might be stressed out from work, so when you get out there, you're just putting it on cruise control, pardon the term, but you're putting it on cruise control because 2 months ago you were catching them on a wacky worm, and you're still throwing that wacky worm, even though those fish really want a topwater bait, or they might really want a Ned rig dragged closer to the bottom, or they might want a drop shot or some other technique. They may be really biting, but you might only catch one or not even hardly get bit because you're fishing something that they were biting a couple weeks ago. So the same thing goes towards doing my tournaments. If I do all my preparation and tournament wise and non-tournament wise, get there and put all my focus into the tournaments, the tournament finishes, the tournament results will come back to who I am as an angler. If you look over my career, and if you're a guy that goes out in a kayak and you never catch anything, you can't expect to catch more unless you start doing more research, fishing with other people, learning more, watching more videos, doing things to make yourself a better angler. And I feel like, as a tournament angler, I get better every single year. I learn more. I love that part of the game, talking to other anglers, watching other anglers on Bassmaster Live and watching them on the TV show, watching them on YouTube. I try to pick up things all the time as well, because I'm constantly trying to become a better angler. I know Rick Clunn said a number of years ago something I thought was really interesting. He said, if you're not getting to be a better angler every year, then you're getting to be a worse angler. And I mean, that goes true with pretty much anything that you do in life. If you're not constantly trying to improve and looking to improve, then you're going to be getting worse, because things are going to be changing, things are going to be evolving, and you're not going to be up to date on what the latest information is and be as tuned in as you should be. So that's what's been going on with me as far as not having really good tournament finishes. But the same thing is applicable for whether you're a tournament fisherman, kayak fisherman, bank fisherman. You stick to your preparation, you do all the steps you need to do, and who you are as an angler will definitely come back around.